Hello everyone, welcome to BYJU'S IS. My name is Akshay Agrawal and today I will be talking about the optional subject economics. Let me start with how do you select your optional subject. First of all, we should keep away from the myths that are there in the market that this particular optional subject is scoring 1 or this particular optional subject is more rewarding than others. Also, this particular optional subject has more competition and therefore you cannot really score well in these. Believe me friends, these are only myths and there is no such thing as this. Therefore, if you want to choose your optional, first of all you should keep only these things in mind. First, whether you can study a subject for one complete year, whether you will enjoy reading it. For this, the best thing is to download the syllabus of the subject and look up the different topics that are there in the syllabus as to whether you can really go deep into these subjects. Second thing is whether you are mentally prepared to take up a subject at undergraduate level and read it in one go. Friends, UPSC examination is not like a university examination. Because in university examinations, you have different subjects from the same field tested at different points of time in different semesters in different papers. But in UPSC optional subject, they will be testing the entire field in just 2 papers. And therefore, whether you are mentally prepared to take up the entire field or the entire subject in just 2 papers. For example, in economics, in university you will find that microeconomics, macroeconomics, international economics, public economics, all these papers are taken into different semesters, into different papers. But when it comes to UPSC civil service examination, all these papers are clubbed together in economics paper 1. So are you mentally prepared to take these many subjects for just one paper? And therefore this is a question you should ask yourself, you should ponder upon it and then decide what optional you want to pick up. I always give one advice to all the people who ask me about how to decide an optional subject. So given these 2 points, I also tell them that if you are good at quantitative stuff, that is, if you are good at math, and if you have a quantitative background, for example in engineering or maybe pure sciences, please go for quantitative subjects like mathematics, physics, engineering, or even chemistry, botany, zoology, whatever you like. The reason is not that these subjects are more scoring than others, but if you love mathematics, you will enjoy reading them and also you will be able to write better answers to what you have prepared. Most of the times, we take subjects that are in vogue in the market. For example, engineers take sociology or political science only because many other people are taking it and it is a common belief that you can cover it. An engineering subject you cannot. But believe me, if you love mathematics, if you love engineering, you can cover the mathematics as well as physics and you can also write very good answers and get good scores as well. So there is no such thing as to one particular optional is scoring, because in this year if you see the trend, almost every optional topper has got 300 plus marks and there is no any difference between the different subjects. Therefore, choose your optional very wisely before you start preparation for this exam. Now let me talk about the economics optional. Economics optional, like every other optional, is divided into 2 papers, paper 1 and paper 2. In paper 1, the topics covered are microeconomics, second one is macroeconomics. I'll also club money and banking here. Then you will see public finance, international economics, growth and development plus L Club environmental economics. Now I'll talk about each of these subjects and what resources you should follow or I had followed. For microeconomics, you can follow book by B.L. Ahuja. This book is a very fat book, nearly 1300 pages, but it does not have to be covered cover to cover. You can skip certain topics from this book looking at the syllabus, which is not mentioned in the syllabus. You can skip those topics and cover the rest. Also, this book is very repetitive in nature. And therefore, even though the size is around 1000 pages that you have to read, the relative reading comes down to almost half the size. And if you prepare your own notes, believe me, your notes can be made in just around 200 pages. So you don't need to worry about the thickness of this book. Just start reading it and believe me, you will do it very quickly. Second subject is macroeconomics and money and banking. Macroeconomics should be covered from Richard Froyen plus B.L. Ahuja again. Richard Froyen has a very good flow of economic thought. It gives you a history of different perspectives that were developed over the years in developing the macroeconomic theories, right from the early classicals to the latest new Keynesians and monetarists, etc. So in this, Richard Froyen can be used. There are certain topics that are not covered in Richard Froyen and that should be done from B.L. Ahuja. These topics are usually relevant for our Indian economy. For example, if you see the RBI, central banking, how does RBI work, etc. It is not given in Richard Froyen, but you can find them in B.L. Ahuja. Similarly, money and banking has to be done from B.L. Ahuja. Now let's come to public finance. Public finance is one subject where there are at least 3 or 4 books that you need to follow, but still you will feel that you have not covered it entirely. But the books that need to be studied are Bhatia and second one is Musgrave. These 2 books will cover most of the technical stuff. Again, both of these books get too much technical. You will find a lot of graphs, lot of mathematics and algebra in this book, but you don't need to really do all that. You only need to understand the theory and make your own notes out of it. I have prepared my own notes on public finance and I'll be uploading it on my own blog and you may want to download and study from them. Those notes are really sufficient to cover public finance. Then the most important part of paper 1 is international economics. I am telling this as most important because if you cover international economics, you can cover nearly 40% of the questions in this paper. Because part 2 of the paper usually have questions from international economics and growth and development. And if you prepare international economics well, you can cover 40% of the paper from this. And one more good thing about international economics is that you just need to follow one source, which is book by Salvatore. Salvatore is like a Bible for international economics. You need to cover it from cover to cover. Apart from 2 to 3 topics from Paul Krugman. These 2 topics from Paul Krugman to be covered. One is the speculative attacks. Another one is exchange rate overshooting. These 2 topics you should cover from Paul Krugman because they are not covered in Salvatore. But for rest, everything you can use Salvatore. One important thing in international economics is that you should have a good practice of diagrams. There are many trade theories in these, for example, the Heckscher-Ohlin trade model, and you should be able to make graphs if you want to really add credits to your answer. For that, practice is very important, and therefore I would recommend you to draw your own diagrams looking at the books and try to replicate them without looking also. Because in the exam, if you draw diagrams, you will get extra credits for sure. In fact, your answer is incomplete without diagrams most of the times. And therefore, for international economics, please try to practice diagrams very well. Now the last part of paper 1 is growth and development and environmental economics. For growth and development, I had followed majorly two books. One was by Jingan and another one was by Thirlwall. These two books will cover different growth theories plus topics related to developmental issues. Also, I want to add here that I have made my own notes for growth and development, and this will be available on my blog, which is coming up very soon. So please have a look, and you may want to download it and study it from them. For environmental economics, unfortunately, there is no good source available. So you may want to follow some resources that are available by simple Google search, or look up previous year's questions and what questions are coming from environmental economics, and just Google them, make your own notes out of them, and see if you can just duplicate any of them if the question comes in the actual examination. So this was all about paper 1. Now let's talk quickly about paper 2. If you see the syllabus of economics paper 2, it is all about the Indian economic history. This Indian economic history is divided broadly into two main parts, which is pre-independence, that is during the British era, and the second one is post-independence, that is after 1947. In pre-independence, the syllabus mentions different topics, and these can be covered from book by Tirthankar Roy and Irfan Habib. Irfan Habib gives you some facts and data. So these facts and data, you can note them down and use in your answers. Otherwise, topics Tirthankar Roy covers really well. One more thing that I would like to add here is that you can follow the Spectrum Modern History book as well, because the Spectrum Modern History book covers economic policies and economic aspect of the British rule in India. And you may find certain questions coming from there as well, and therefore make some notes out of this if you find anything useful. Now let's talk about post-independence. Post-independence also, the syllabus is divided mainly into two parts. The first one is pre-liberalization and the second one is post-liberalization. Now can you please post in the comment box when was the liberalization policy adopted in India? The part of the history that comes before this year is known as pre-liberalization, and we have divided the Indian economic history in these two broad areas because there was a drastic shift in the Indian economic policy, and the way we looked at the world economy as well as our own economy changed after this. And therefore, these two broad time periods emerged. Now in both of these periods, whether it is pre-liberalization or post-liberalization, you will see that topics are related to agriculture, industry, that is manufacturing, poverty and inequality, India's trade, monetary policy, fiscal policy, etc. These broad topics are covered for both of these phases. Now, what are the readings that we should do? First one is a book by Uma Kapila, latest edition. Uma Kapila, the book name should be Performance and Policies. That is Indian Economy, Performance and Policies. The latest edition that is available, this book has to be followed. You will understand the economic thought behind our policies, and this book will give you a very good glimpse of the Indian economy. The second thing that is most important is again Economic Survey of India. Economic Survey has two volumes, volume 1 as well as volume 2. For optional paper 2, both the volumes are important. Volume 1 is necessary to understand the analysis and the policy aspect of our economy, and the volume 2 gives you the state of Indian economy. That is, it presents you with different facts, figures, data and graphs, and you may want to note them down, practice them so that you will put them in your answers. Then the next important thing for this paper is the EPW articles. There you can take an EPW subscription and just do a simple search in it for any of these topics and read the relevant articles. Read the analysis given in them and make notes out of them. Then again comes Google searches for different issues like poverty, inequality, international reports. Then comes reports by ministries and RBI and Niti Aayog. Reports by ministries such as Commerce Ministry, Ministry of Medium and Small Enterprises, report of Ministry of Agriculture are really important to cover different aspects. A report by RBI is used to cover topics such as foreign trade and our monetary policy. And report by Niti Aayog will present you with a picture of how we look at our developmental issues. So these reports have to be read and make sure that you take up important points out of these reports and make your own notes out of them. One more important point that I would like to add for paper 2 is speeches by RBI governors, deputy governors, by Finance Minister of India, the PM of India, President of India, at different forums. Because these speeches will give you a glimpse into what is the current economic policy and how government looks at the different issues that are there in our country. Last point that I would like to add about paper 2 is that you should remember names of certain economists for different topics. For example, if you are doing a topic in agriculture, in this if you are doing on land reforms, please have a list of different 2 or 3 economists that have worked on land reforms and given very good analysis of this. One paper that I can remember is by Professor Ghatak, who has presented an analysis of land reforms in India. Then for example, for poverty, you have reports of different committees like Tendulkar Committee, Rangarajan Committee, etc. Try to remember these names and put them in your answer. This will really add value to your answer and give them extra credit points. It is good if you can also remember the year of the publication of the paper. For example, the paper in which Professor Ghatak talks about land reforms was published in say year 2000. So in your answer, if you can write as per Ghatak 2000, it really gives you an edge over others because here you are mentioning a reliable and authentic source from where you get the information that you're writing, and this will definitely add extra points to your answer. So friends, this was about the strategy to prepare economics optional, and have a look for my upcoming blog in which I'll be sharing all my notes and detailed strategy for economics preparation. Thank you.